Get Advisor Fit with Olivia Looper, a series of interviews with financial consultants and industry experts helping financial advisors strategize, market, and grow their business using core fitness values and analogies. Do something today that your future self will thank you for with Get Advisor Fit. Here's your host, Olivia Looper.
Welcome back to Get Advisor Fit. I'm joined today by Anthony Williams from the Bronx. We met recently through LinkedIn because Anthony is upping his game here and he is creating content like a madman, which of course caught my attention. So here we are. He is a wealth planner, future influencer. And why don't you tell us a little bit more about yourself, Anthony?
Yeah, Olivia, thanks for having me here. It's crazy how the internet works. I mean, you were just on the right side. You should probably connect with Olivia, and then I got the chance to connect with you, learn about the work that you did, and I even saw this podcast, and I think what you're doing is amazing. So again, Anthony Williams, I'm from the Bronx originally, Jamaican and Guyanese descent. I pretty much got my start in the industry around 18, 19 years old. So I got a very early start to the game, and so I learned a lot of those entrepreneurial lessons early on. And so once I was able to fully graduate and take on this business full time, I already had a few years of experience. Outside of the work stuff, I'm a huge self-help junkie. I like to stay active. And at one point, ball was life for me. Basketball was my thing. But I still play ball here and there when I can, participate in a few local leagues just to kind of keep my shooting sharp. But outside of that, I really enjoy the work that I'm doing and enjoy having these type of conversations.
Yeah. So, I mean, we clicked automatically when we first met. And so one of the things that I really like about you is your entrepreneurial spirit. And so when you tell me, though, you started at 18, 19 years old, what do you mean exactly? What was Anthony doing at 18, a little entrepreneur?
Yes. So growing up, my dad always told me, in order for you to be truly free, you have to do your own thing. And so I always had that in the back of my mind and always wanted to start a business. Just didn't know what type of business, when I was going to start it. And so before I even got into financial services, I was part of multi-level marketing, right? So I already had a little bit of an early start, building a team, talking about a product or service, something like that, and just display a lot of leadership qualities. And then I think it was my first semester at school. I went to Harvard University. My dad, gave someone my number, and they were saying, "Hey, would you be interested in a financial services internship?" And they told me that what I would be doing, I'll be going to people's houses, talking about their personal finances. And at first I was a bit terrified. I'm like, I'm going to people's houses? Are you serious? That's crazy. But I said, you know what? I took the deep dive. I was always into personal finance. Like I had my first retirement account when I was 18. I got my first life insurance plan when I was 18. And so I just think it was perfect timing. And that's how I got started when I was young.
That's awesome on so many levels. The first one being that the last thing I was thinking about when I was 18 was retirement. I actually got married pretty young, and I had my first child pretty young, really young, too young. But my husband at the time was all like, "Oh, I'm going to save all this money for retirement." And I'm like, "Why? We're only like 19 years old. Why?" And looking back, because retirement, doing your own thing, owning a business, none of this was anything that was ever like talked about in my family because my mom was a trust fund baby. So she didn't work. My dad wasn't in the picture. So like finances were nothing that we ever talked about, let alone retirement. We have to save for retirement. I mean, none of these like foreign concepts to me. So for you to be like 18 years old and like doing all of this stuff already, that's pretty impressive. But not just impressive, like now talking about it, but in that you actually are clearly very passionate about it. It's not just like a job that yes, you were asked to do the internship and go to people's houses. That was, not something that you were expecting, but, you were already in it, in your mind before you even were in the job.
Yeah. Yeah. It was definitely terrifying. Not going to lie to you, because I consider myself I'm extroverted, but I'm also introverted. So I forget the word. I think ambivert. I forget it because I think at that stage of my life, it was like I was very shy. But I mustered up the courage. I practiced. I came in early. I stood late. And so it helped me transform my mindset, which helped me, be successful. Because even in the internship program, I was within my category. I was number one on the East Coast for about 3 years in a row. And then I graduated being top 10 in the country. So a lot of those, a lot of sleepless nights, early mornings. It was crazy.
So once you would go to these people's houses, what did you do?
So it would first be more of like, it's a relationship-based business. So it's more of like, I'm just learning more about them, because the way I got introduced to these people was typically through like referrals, introductions. And so it'd be first more of like, hey, let's get to know each other. And then I'll probably spend the next like maybe 20 minutes kind of going to like what I actually do. And then, and then the next few minutes was pretty much learning more about this exact person and figuring out if we would be a good fit for each other.
So I have an interesting thought while you're talking about this is, I was speaking to someone recently about how nerve-wracking it can be for a new financial planning client to come in the office the first time and like spill their guts. Like, this is my whole life. These are my problems. This is my goals and my dreams and all the deep down stuff. I mean, I wonder, in your experience, like, the home setting versus being like in an office setting, do you feel like it made any kind of difference?
So I would say, mind you, this is almost like 10 years ago, right? And so now technology has definitely shifted where, 97% of my meetings are Zoom. But to answer your question, when I met someone in their home, they're very comfortable. It's their own environment. They control the environment. We'll sit at their kitchen table. However, I did find it to be, from a business side, tend to be inefficient with time-wise, because let's say they would like to offer me a drink, they might be cooking, they might be doing something in their house, but I think that allowed them to be a bit more comfortable and having a conversation with me by just sharing things with me that they don't even tell their closest friend. Versus in the office, everyone has to put up a certain front. I had my suit and tie, I had my best tie, I polished my shoes. They're coming in and they don't really know what to expect. But I do think that, but now moving forward, because we are working virtually, people would be more comfortable. And so one of the common themes that my clients tell me they really enjoy is the fact that they feel comfortable having a conversation with me, which allows them to open up and really having us make progress, right? Because at the end of the day, when it comes to planning, it is personal. And so I really focus a lot on the personal stuff first, and the numbers, we typically talk about the numbers that last like 10 to 15 minutes of the actual meeting, right? And so so that's what I've learned and noticed over the last few years. Yeah.
So and I think that one of the things that this shift to digital since 10 years ago is that they say, okay, well, we're more disconnected, all of these types of things, but there's also a lot of opportunities, I think, for people to get to know you in a very non-threatening way, like doing a podcast, or but you just showed me your video that you made and you're about to put out. And these are ways that you're doing and other advisors are doing, or anybody really in business who's using social media and email and things like that, can build a connection with somebody that makes them feel more at ease, so that when first of all, at ease enough to want to book the call with you, and then also to move forward with the process and things like that. So the landscape has definitely changed in that respect, but you're doing the right things, which is putting yourself out there so that people can get comfortable with you. And so on that note, I know that you're with Northwestern Mutual, and I work with some advisors who, work for larger companies, and some advisors who are independent and things like that. In your experience, would you say has been like the most beneficial thing that you've done to help grow your business since you've been with Northwestern Mutual?
I would say, really focus on building the brand out, and really, identifying who I am as an individual. Because at the end of the day, others might agree or disagree, I think that financial planning is such a commoditized product, where it's like you can get the same financial planning products or services down the block, but it's like, what makes you different? And so I think, really, when we think about my brand, I consider myself an entrepreneur first, a connector. I just happen to be in financial planning. And so when I talk about the entrepreneur side of things, Yes, I'm partnered with a large corporation, a company. However, I'm doing my own thing. I have my own payroll, my own marketing strategies, things like that. But I do have other business outside of this where it might be in the networking space. It might be in a car rental space. I have a lot of outside opportunities that I work on. And so when I connect with other entrepreneurs, hey, listen, I'm a business owner, you're a business owner. I know what you're thinking about because I'm thinking about them myself. And when I think about the connector mindset, I always approach my meetings as much more like networking sessions where I'm just learning more about this individual. And so I always like to, whenever I meet with someone, I'm always thinking about how can I help you? It's never really how we can help me. It's really how I can help you. And that's got me to the point where people who are clients, some aren't even clients, are calling me for advice. Hey, Anthony, I want to connect with this mentor in this hospital. Anthony, I want to connect with this person in my law firm. How do I go about it? And I'm like, oh, wow, you're asking me this question? Cool. This is exactly how I do it. And so I think I was able to really solidify my brand just as an individual, which then makes it easy for me to connect with those folks that we target and we work with on a daily basis.
Yeah, what that says to me is that you are doing a phenomenal job at leading by example. And so these people are coming to you, not just for financial planning advice, but because they're like, I see Anthony doing this. I want to do this. I'm going to ask him how I can go about doing this, which I think is something that is a real added value for you in your practice, because this is something that business owners need. And we were just talking about this recently with somebody, especially, I don't know, business owners in the early stage, a lot of times, depending on how fast they're growing things, depending if they can afford to, hire someone. But a lot of times in, the first 10 years, you don't have a lot of extra money to go paying a mentor and things like that. So you're seeking out advice, from the people in your network, and then networking basically. So, that is an added value to have you in their corner to say, okay, this is how you can go out and, do this without having to necessarily pay for a consulting service or a business mentorship service or whatever.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong, I still believe those things are important. Like, I think one of the things that I also did as well, and I didn't bring this point up, was early on, my first year full time, I had a coach. Right. I've had a business coach, and at one point I had like 3 coaches at one point. That was actually last year. But I always invested into myself, and I was able to do that because as a business owner, I kept my, just me personally, my personal expenses were very low. So I was like, I'm able to, all the money that I'm making, I'm able to reinvest it back into the business and invest into myself. And then in turn, because I'm actually paying for these coaching programs and stuff like that, whenever my clients want to start a business or get into real estate, hey, listen, I invested thousands of dollars in this area, I can give that to you for free. And granted, you did come to financial planning, but that's just another value add. Was, listen, I'm gonna think about things traditionally for you, like doing the regular 401ks, IRAs, but also untraditional, how to view your business as part of your plan.
Yeah, so that's another interesting topic that when I work with financial advisors who also work with business owners, I like to ask them personally, in their experience, do they find the access point, like in the journey of meeting someone and potentially working with them and then becoming a client or not? Do you find that the access point is in through the business side or in through wealth planning?
Yeah, well, it just depends on what stage you're catching them at. So like, if we're dealing with someone who's a business owner in their first few years, usually your business finances, your personal finances are commingled. And so ideally the approach would be more of, hey, let's address your personal stuff. And then when your business gets to the point we have consistent enough revenue for you to spend money on other things, then we can talk more about the business stuff. And let's say if I'm talking to someone that's much more established, maybe they might be 10 years out. Usually the access point tends to be the business side, because maybe they want to maintain key talent. Maybe they need to adjust their retirement benefits. Maybe they need to create some type of compensation planning to keep the right people on the team, or maybe they just want to be able to have some type of succession planning. So it just depends. So usually what I find, early stage businesses, it's commingled. As you get further out, it tends to start with the business because that's tend to be what's top of mind for them. And we eventually trickle over to the personal side.
Yeah, that's exactly. Well, okay. So I never thought of that first stage, that first early stage where everything is commingled, but Oh boy, I know about that stage. And it was a hot mess. I'm like, well, because I didn't know anything about owning a business. I mean, I could barely manage my own personal finances, let alone, it's much easier now. So I've learned the right way to do it. But I that brings a new perspective for it to me, because I kind of forget about that section, because typically what I think is especially in the growing stages, right, of owning a business, I feel like that is the access point for a lot of people. And because that's where their focus is, right? That's where they're making their money. So they're like, how can I make more money? And not so much on the other side. So like, it's interesting when we talk about marketing to business owners, what that journey looks like, so that you can address them at the appropriate time. So I just wanted your input on that. And you definitely gave me new insight on that first part, because I forget about that part.
Yeah, we always forget about it, but we always forget about it. But then having conversations like this, like, yeah, I remember, at this point, because similar to me, my stuff was commingled. Now there's definitely separation of church and state within the finances as well.
Yeah, definitely. So I think what I really do like about you too, and your willingness to help, and I think that this episode will be really helpful for advisors who are looking to go out on their own and make their own thing, like your dad said. What kind of advice would you give an advisor, or you say, what advice would you give your younger self? Young Anthony, who was going to people's houses and doing that.
Yeah. Yes. So I think the first thing is you got to get your mind right. Like my first year full time as an advisor, I actually almost quit. I almost left the business. Yep. And the reason why was I was always anxious about the unknowns. I was always anxious about, okay, where's my next client going to come from? And then it was like, okay, how am I going to meet payroll? And then it got to the point where, because I was so anxious, I overcompensated by working a lot more. Because I worked a lot more, I ignored, my health. I ignored my relationships. I stopped doing hobbies. And then it all came down together. And then it was like, lost like 20 pounds, was depressed, was in bed literally for like almost four days in a row. And so I just said it to say that when you gotta invest in yourself and get your mental right. And what does that look like, right? That could be adopting a meditation practice. That could be having an outlet for you to express yourself. For me, it was playing sports, and me actually going to play basketball. And so I think it's important just to invest in your mental health, because if you think about this world that we're in, it's a performance-based business, right? You have to go out there, perform, you have to go out there, get the clients. And if you're not right mentally, then it'll be very hard for you to actually make progress in that area. So I think one is get your mindset right. And then the second thing I would give advice to people would be, depending on what stage you're in, is keep your personal expenses really low. A lot of people out there like to run lifestyle practices where it's like, they're making this money and they go out there, buy the nice car, they buy the nice watch, they buy, they move into the super expensive apartment. But now it gets to the point where they have so much pressure on their cash flow, where they're going to have to go out there, maybe do things out there in the marketplace, which may not be in the best interest of the clients, because now you're thinking about your own pocket. And so I think it's really keep your personal expenses really low, so you have the flexibility. So when things aren't doing so well, you're not stressed out. And because you're stressed out, you're not performing really well. And I guess the last advice too that I would give would be, find those mentors early. Like for me, I have like 3 different types of mentors. I have mentors that are, let's say 10 years ahead of me, right? And they're absolutely crushing. I have mentors that are 20 years. So I have different mentors for different stages and for different things in my life. And so, the advice I would give would be, just invest in your mental health, right? Keep fixed expenses low, and really find those key mentors as soon as possible, because, I don't know where I'd be without my mentor. Right. He's really successful financial advisor. He's really picked me up a lot and given me some advice, so I can definitely avoid the mistakes that he made himself.
Yeah. And I think that one of the things that a lot of financial advisors struggle with is kind of feeling like they live in a vacuum and they live in a bubble. And it's like, well, what is everybody else out there doing? Because you feel so like alone. And I mean, you're all I mean, I feel like the industry as a whole has done a really good job in recent years of having more of an abundance mindset. Like there is plenty of business to go around, but at the same time, like, you're building your own business and it's your baby and you're protective of it. So I think that this feeling of, that feeling can be alleviated by what you're saying is having a mentor. And I always say coaches, mentors, that's like the greatest life hack of all time. I think before the internet, they weren't as popular. But now you can get a coach for just about anything. And I think that it's one of the greatest investments that you can make. I mean, even in just like doing things like somebody coming in or helping you organize your stuff every few months, like just random stuff that in general makes your life more efficient so you can keep your mind right for your business. Put the mask on yourself before you put the mask on others. So I think that that's really a key thing to, I second that 1,000,000%. And another thing about what I was thinking when you were talking about the mental health is like, as someone who's marketing to business owners, and that these are the struggles, like these are things that, I've seen you talk about in your content and I've seen others talk about in their content, about things like this. And we need to be reminded to like put the brakes on, keep perspective, do things to take care of your body and your mind. And those posts always do really well because they resonate, because these are, common struggles that business owners have: getting burnout, overcompensating. You pull, like the second thing you said about pulling too much out of the business, and then having to rely on it too much, and then it's not fun anymore. Then it's like, screw this, I want to quit too. But yeah, so no, that's great advice. And so when you look at, yourself and your practice and you look at these mentors, what's your vision for yourself for like, it's your 10-year plan?
Yeah, thanks for asking that question. I'm always thinking about what's next. The other day I was thinking about, okay, how do executives run these multi-billion-dollar corporations? I believe if you're someone that's good, you're always looking around what's next and what's around the corner, because you'll be able to anticipate industry trends, et cetera. But to answer your question, so like I told you before, the brand, right? It's an entrepreneur connect, happens to be in financial planning. And so, my goal right now is to really build out the practice, and really still keep that boutique feeling. I know there's some advisory firms out there that have like over 30 employees, 40 employees, 50 employees. I'm more of, hey, listen, like, me being I'm more than just a financial advisor, right? So my goal here is to build a practice out, maybe hire no more than 10 people, within the next 10 years, and really still provide that comprehensive financial planning. And so we can work people in many different ways. So the goal is to just continue to build the practice out, hire more junior associates on that front. And then once this financial planning business is said and done, then I might just start launching coaching. I might go out there and start coaching other financial advisors as well. So I'm actually
you'd be really good at that.
Yeah, thank you. Because I do coach individually, then I realized that I'm not really an individual person. I like to just coach to the masses. And so definitely going to be coming out with something within the next 5 years on that front. And then, once I finish that, then I'm probably gonna get into real estate heavy. And so probably take the business profits, invest into real estate, build a nice, robust real estate portfolio. And then I might spill over into other riskier businesses, such as like having a coffee shop, lounges, restaurants. So pretty much taking things in stages, because these days people always talk about multiple sources of income, which they're nice, but if all your multiple sources of incomes aren't as stable or strong, then something happens, you're going to get wiped out. And so right now is build a really strong financial planning practice, financial planning for not only for myself, but also for my clients. I want to make sure that my clients if they need an associate to speak to, we have quality people on the team for us to be able to make that happen. So yeah, so that's like, the 10-year vision of the stages that I want to go through. And then, as I'm doing all of this, still be a positive impact to people, whether that's like personally, professionally, financially, still posting content and stuff like that. And just let people know the things that I go through, because we all go through things, no matter who's going to be able to, get picked back up from them and be able to help the next person, so they don't have to make the same mistakes.
Yeah. So I guess the question that comes to mind when you were talking has really nothing to do with that. well, I guess it does. But when you were thinking about the types of clients that you wanted to serve, and I know who your target audience is, but how did you decide that that was the type of people you wanted to help? Was it because you were working with them already and you found it was a good fit, or was it something different?
So I think the first, I guess, target market business owners, I'm a business owner myself. And so I feel like when I'm talking to a business owner, we always go back and forth with, like, we talk about culture, we talk about team, we talk about benefits, we talk about payroll, we talk a lot about the same things. And so I think that was an easy one for me to choose. And then, a lot of my, so I went to Howard University, which is, it's an historically Black university, and they produce the most attorneys out there. And then also, at least minority attorneys, and also physicians. And so a lot of my friends, they just end up being like doctors and attorneys. And so every time I go somewhere, it just so happened to be that way. And it's a huge need, in that market. And then also I have a lot of local organization partnerships that really serve that market as well. So it was a combination between being able to relate what was around me and then really honing in and focus on it. Because in the past, it was just, I was going after everybody. And I think in the beginning, depending on what model you're coming under, that can be a great place to start. And then eventually you can niche over time. Because at the end of the day, you still need, you can't really help out your target market if you don't have any clients or you're not in business, So,
Right.
so that's some of the feedback I have for you.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that is kind of, simple. Okay, two things. Business people, we love to talk about business. We talk about business all day. And so, I mean, naturally, that's a good fit. And then I didn't even plan personally to serve business owners, but I do in my business. I was, freelance writing for basically whoever. Then I finished my master's degree, had my son, and then was getting back into it. And for the people who know my story, it was a suggestion that I try out the financial space because there really weren't a lot of writers. But I love that I am marketing to other people in business because I can talk about business all day. I mean, and I think that that's why those posts also do really well, and emails that are talking about, because we're business owners. We love talking about our babies, this is what we want to do. So now, like you said, natural fit. And yes, so I remember when I first started writing some financial planning articles for physicians in particular. I haven't really written for anybody who I haven't really written a lot of attorney-focused content, but physician-focused content, boy, did I have no idea, like, the financial challenges that physicians face as far as, like, the insurance and the student loans and liabilities and all of these things. And I was like, wow. I mean, I couldn't imagine being a doctor and trying to figure that out on my own. So
yeah, and if you think about it, just the schooling that they have to go through, the 24-hour shifts, the board exams, and all of that, and then on top of that, people think that they're making the money, right? And it's like, well, they are making the money, but they're late to the game.
Late to the game, yes,
exactly. And sometimes, depending on their background, they probably have a whole family that they need to support before they can even enjoy their money. And so yeah, no, it can, that's why it's really important for to choose a niche, because when I do meet with these type of clientele, I'm like, I understand, I already know their struggles. Now it's about, hey, can we help you solve it? Are we a good fit?
Exactly. The tips and tricks, the ins and outs. It's not starting from scratch. And so I remember someone too, like, asked me a long time ago, like, would you ever work with a financial advisor who had X, Y, and Z niche? And I was like, listen, I've been writing for a hot minute now. Okay. I've written for a hot number of niches. I don't want to learn anymore. It's too much, so if I would say, my example I always gave was like, technology or something, like Silicon Valley guys. Like, I know nothing about that occupation, that world. If somebody came to me, I'll be like, I'm sorry, I'll have to send you to someone else, because it's a lot of information. For all intents and purposes, you have to become an expert on the financial challenges of that group of people. So if you come across an advisor who says, I serve everybody, I'm an expert in everybody. Well, no, you cannot possibly be an expert in
You cannot. at all.
So, very smart to have picked your niches, early and not do that whole struggle bus thing. We have enough struggles to deal with.
Yeah, exactly. We don't need the daily business struggles. And yeah, I mean, if there's going to be struggles, especially if you're trying to grow and make things happen, there's always going to be struggles. But, I'd rather the struggle, like right now, the things that I'm thinking through is like talent retention, trying to find talent, and then, making sure that, we're prepared for opportunities. Let's say if there's a market downturn or there's things to be bought out there. Like, how do we evaluate and how do we acquire if it makes sense for our business and stuff like that? But yeah, no, it's a lot of struggles out there.
Yeah. So I guess before we go, I would just like to ask your opinion on, where do you see the financial advisory business going? Do you feel like it's going in a good direction? And, what do you think what we can look forward to?
So, Sonia, I was asked this question the other day.
Really?
I was. So I think one, there's been an increased number of people doing it themselves, especially with these low cost, brokerage firms. So there's gonna be a lot of people that probably don't need the basics. They probably need more of like more expertise or more tactical or technical advice. So I think that's going to be a key there. The second thing is people are going to want to start looking for more comprehensive financial advisors. Like, I think the whole, hey, I just do insurance or I just do investments thing is now a thing of the past, because if I come across someone and they already have a financial advisor and that advisor is only doing investments, then it's like, well, have they created you an actual financial plan? Do they have any expertise in insurance? So I think there's going to be a lot of comprehensive movement. And so that's why you want to go with a firm that can help you support that actual process. And then last but not least, I'm going to see a lot of, fee-based planning happening, where
Yes.
you think about, the compression of actual AUM fees. It's like, well, because of where we are as technology, it's like things are being cheaper. It's going to be less costly to invest. Well, now people are probably just going to prefer to pay a financial planning fee and maybe do it themselves for a little bit. And when it gets to the point where they think their portfolios tend to be complex, maybe then that's when they decide to pass it off. So I would just think, comprehensive planning, fee-based planning, and you got to move with it. If you're not, you're going to get left behind, and you're going to lose clients.
Yeah, I think that's going to be more popular too. I mean, I've even seen it a hell of a lot more than I did even in 2018, 2019. And I think it's fantastic because for me, I feel like it's just access, giving people access to life-changing advice at the price point that they're at. And like you said, when their portfolio gets to a point where it makes sense, it's complex enough that, you move to maybe that B plus AUM, then you get to that point. But, I like to see this, I hate to use the word democratization, but like just the higher accessibility of comprehensive planning services through the fee-based model. And that's what, that's what we need. So I'm glad to see it too. It makes me encouraged for the future.
Exactly. And it's only going to just help the client, because, again, even reflecting on just my time in the industry, it used to be if someone wanted to get help, they had to buy a product. They had to buy something. And that was just the nature of the industry. But now there's a lot more transparency. There's a lot more advocacy for clients and stuff like that. And so you just want to be able to, go where the masses are going, especially if it's in this client's best interest. And again, we're here to provide advice at the end of the day. That's where our true value comes into play.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think that you give great advice. I think that all your clients are lucky to have you, and any future advisors that you might be mentoring or coaching and to the masses. It fits you very well. So
thank you.
I'm sure that my audience is going to love this. So thank you so much for joining me. You guys know where to find me at lexiconcontentdevelopment.com or on LinkedIn at Olivia Looper. or Instagram at lexiconcontentdevelopment.com. And Anthony, why don't you tell us where we can find you?
So LinkedIn, Anthony Williams, put Northwestern Mutual, find me. And then on Instagram, I do a lot of content on there, visionary.int. Follow me, shoot me a DM. I'm here to be a resource. And especially if you're in the New York City area, love to connect, love to have a conversation, and see how we can help each other grow. So thank you for having me, Olivia.
Absolutely. And you guys, I will put all those links and handles in the show notes and the caption so you can follow right through to check Anthony out. As always, lift heavy, invest often, and market your ass off. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening to Get Advisor Fit with Olivia Looper. To learn more about Olivia and how her firm, Lexicon Content Development, can help you, visit lexiconcontentdevelopment.com. If you want to reach out to Olivia on LinkedIn, you can find her at Olivia Looper Lexicon. And if you'd like to follow Olivia on Instagram, you can find her at Lexicon Content Development. Till next time.